the Kamiga's scarf.
Yeah.
Tell us that story, Alder.
In 2010, my friend Gigi had walked the Camino, and she was a hospice nurse. I worked with her. And when I was getting ready to go in 2017, I asked Gigi if we could have lunch because I wanted to know what was in her backpack. I wanted to know everything. This was before I even knew about American Pilgrims or how you get support, but I knew Gigi, and so we sat down for lunch, and she brought me three gifts. The first gift was a palm frond cross that had been blessed from Palm Sunday, which was just lovely. The other gift, she said, I had €4 that I hadn't spent, so you need to go buy yourself a cup of coffee. So that was lovely. And then she pulls out this scarf. Beautiful, reds, blues, purple, beautiful scarf. And she said, this has to go back to the Camino. She goes, I don't know why. I was in Estella and met a young girl. She was an au pair from North Carolina. That's all I really remember about her. But she was an American, and she heard us speaking, and she just kind of like, Americans, because she's been working with these children in the Spanish family. And so she was so excited. We invited her to join us, and one thing led to another, and too much wine, and she missed her bus. So Gigi said, there's no way you are spending the night sitting in a bus station. Stay with us. And so she did, and that's just true Camino. Stay with us. And she did, and the next morning the young girl left and left her scarf behind. So Gigi picked it up and tried to find her and never could. So she told me it had to go back to the Camino. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it back. But I didn't know what the purpose or reason, but I'll do it. I'll take it back. And I did. And it was wonderful because I walked October, November, and it was cold, especially once I got up to like Sobrero and the Galician Plateau in November.
Yeah.
It was cold. So I really enjoyed having that scarf, and I came back to home afterwards and brought the scarf, and I got a message from another lady in my area who said, I'm going to walk the Camino. Can we have lunch? So we were talking, and I was showing her what was in my pack, and I told her about the scarf. I could see all over her face, I want that scarf. And I was just like, I don't know if I want to give it up, because when you've held something like that through that kind of experience, it's really hard to let go. But I said, okay, Annie, take the scarf. She goes, it's made 2 Caminos. It's lucky. I said, okay, it's yours. So I gave it to Annie. She successfully made her Camino, and she passed it on to Donna. So now we know the purpose of the scarf. It is to be passed from Camiga to Camiga. And a Camiga, the CA is for Camino, and Amiga is a female friend. So we're Camigas, female friends on the Camino. And the scarf is on the Camino right now on the Frances for the 18th time.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That is totally amazing. And did you ever find that young lady who was the original owner?
No, and I'm guessing she's probably in her 30s now. I would love to find her. That's why every time I get a chance to tell this story, I put it out there. Hopefully one day she will show up and find out what has happened to her beautiful scarf.
Yeah, and learn what an amazing impact she's had on so many amazing women.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's so great. And then, as a result of the Camiga's scarf, there's a trio of books, a trilogy of books that you've written. Let's start with the first one, Mother. Tell us about Mother.
Mother, well, each book is accurate in setting. So Mother is from the Frances. And this is the scarf. The artist who did the cover, Nupu, is just, she's does art on the Camino. She's Indian, but I believe she lives in Italy now. And so, of course, the scarf had to be on everything. And the Camigas have a Facebook page. The Camigas, a buddy system for the Camino. Are you familiar with that?
No, no. You might tell us
Okay,
about
because
that as well.
that's
Yeah.
so much a part of the story. Um, in 2015, a young woman was murdered on the Camino, Denise Thiem. I don't know if you are aware of that.
Did know that, yeah.
Yes. So, three wonderful ladies got together and said, we will not allow that horror to ruin the Camino for women. Yeah, we're nervous. Yeah, we're scared. We know what happened, but it's not going to ruin it. So they started a Facebook page called Camigas, a buddy system on the Camino. And you can go on that Facebook page as a woman and you can find a spreadsheet and you can see who's going to start the Camino at the same time you are and where you're starting. So I did that, and I found two wonderful ladies who were starting in St. Jean the same time I was. And we all met in St. John and we started walking together, and I'm still in touch with them. So it's definitely a buddy system. And between that and the scarf, I felt like I needed to write the story of women in the scarf. And I started by interviewing the women that I knew at the time who had carried this scarf, but I realized I couldn't write their stories. I couldn't do their stories justice. So I decided to do the 3 stages of womanhood. And then I decided to do it on 3 different routes. But each woman carries the scarf and passes it on to the next, because I wanted that to happen too. So the first book, Mother, is about a woman who decides to walk with a small group of Catholic women led by a nun. And the reason I chose that, St. Bono of Pisa, back in medieval times, used to lead small groups of women on the Camino. So I thought, oh, well, there's a precedence for this. So a nun leads it, and the mother decides to take her daughter with her who's graduating from high school. So it's a mother, daughter, and other women. And it's set on the Francaise, and the sights they see and the things that happen are very typical of Camino. And the relationship between mother and daughter, with daughter testing her wings, graduating and ready to fly, and mom, oh my God, I'm going to empty nest, builds a little tension there. But they work on that relationship during their Camino. And the first book is steeped in Catholicism because it's with a nun, and it's very much a lot of the Catholic. The second book has an overlay of the witches and the paganism, because I learned about that and the Celtic influence when I walked the Norte, and the Norte is much stronger in that area. So I followed that and those legends in the second book with Maiden. And then Maiden is followed on Facebook by an older woman who's caring for her husband who's dying of Alzheimer's. And he dies. And so she's talking to the young girl, through Facebook and kind of following this adventure. And so the Maiden gives her the scarf, mails it to her, because she decides she's going to walk a Camino at the ripe age of 79. And so she goes and she walks the Portuguese. And that's the crone. And that's the third story on the Portuguese. That's the trilogy. And I hope that I have represented our stages of life as a woman, and well represented the scarf and the camigas and the support women give each other on the Camino.
Why is female friendship such a strong theme in your work?
I think it has to do with safety, and it has to do with this feeling of we've been through so much together. We have taken care of families. We have supported. We have done all these things, and we understand what each other has been through. And we understand how that feels. And I think that that is really important to have somebody who understands how you feel and where you've been and give you hope for the future.